us women are taking over the world, it seems, right, Lena?
Yes, definitely. Most definitely.
Lena is the president of MLK Prearrangements, LLC, and I am so honored to get to speak to you about a subject that is so important. And that subject, it can be kind of heavy,
Yes.
but we're going to keep it light, too, because it also can be kind of light as well.
It is,
It doesn't
yes.
necessarily have to be heavy.
Right.
And a lot of times it all really depends on your philosophy about it, your perspective about it, and what I'm talking about is the place that we're all heading to, which is
Right.
death, right? We're all going to die. And a lot of times people don't want to talk about
Not
that
at all.
subject.
Not
They
at all.
avoid it.
Definitely.
But isn't it crazy how it's something that it is the one only thing for sure that we're all going to experience. I guess that and breathing when we're all here.
Yes.
But so many people don't want to talk about it.
Nope.
But we're going to talk about it today.
Yes.
We're going to answer some questions because I know that a lot of people do have questions. And the first thing that I want to talk to you about, Lena, is can you explain first of all, to everybody what prearrangement of death services are and how they benefit individuals?
That is the subject that I broach most with my clients or with new people in presentations and those types of things. I want people to understand that the pre-planning, pre-arrangements, prepaid, all of those things are the same. Prepaid funerals is pre-planning. It's a part of the whole process.
Right.
I think people should get ahead of that, and the main reasons are because of finances. You see a lot of families doing GoFundMes, a lot of people are even doing loans, things like that shouldn't be this difficult to have your life in order because we're all going to pass away at some point in time.
Yes.
So if we think about it like that and not thinking about it as being jinxed or
Yes.
something like that, this is just something we have to deal with. And I would rather my families have to do this before than at the time of need. So MLK Prearrangements is exactly that, trying to help you prearrange for your future.
And what's funny is you say, don't look at it as like being jinxed. You
No.
can't jinx it. We're all
No.
going to have, it's
gonna
going to
happen.
happen. And we
Yes.
don't know when, where, how, or why.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, what a gift. And we talked about this on the phone. What a gift it is to your family that at that time when something
Yes.
occurs, they're mourning, they're dealing with their own emotional stuff.
Right.
To then have to add these other things on
Right.
top can be very difficult.
Very difficult. Yes, ma'am.
I know that I've experienced it on my husband's side of the family and different situations that had pre-arrangements been handled that those things would not have happened.
Right.
So let's talk about what motivated you specifically to get into this industry.
I think there's a few things that really stand out here. The first reason is that I saw a need. I saw a need within my own community, how we just don't know. And that is not just about my community, it's about several. We just don't know, and the education is not there. Until someone passes, you don't know what to expect in future.
Right.
So that was my first reason why. The second is I wanted my children to see their mother doing something that she had a passion for and something that is respected. And they love it, they see it, they understand it.
Yes.
I mean, I think they're 12, 16, 29. And so I know the 29-year-old gets it, 16 understands it. 12 is just like so proud of mommy.
Right.
But this is something I want to bring to all because there's no education there. Until, like I said, we get into those rooms and we have the fights back in the back.
And wait, I'm going to stop you here. Let's talk about this really quick. Give me, because people love stories, right? And so, give me a story of a situation that has happened that you've witnessed, and why this is so important.
So working in a funeral home that I was there before, and that's where I got all this motivation. There were families that would come in and not know what mom or what dad wanted. And so prearranging helps them to figure that out. So sitting there in the room with the family, so many examples. One of my favorite to speak about, and it's hard. It's a very hard subject. But this family came in, one gentleman came in first, and he goes, my mom passed on, and she wanted my sister to have 3 or 4 different spaces. She didn't leave them to us. She said, my sister. And we all need to sign off on this and make sure my sister has the spaces. However, the brothers lived in California and somewhere else, and the sister had no idea that this was a part that she was playing in. And no one wanted to sign those documents to give her the spaces because they all despised that brother.
Wow.
And the reason they despised that brother is because he was the one that was there with mom, and he is the one she made the executor and passed everything along to. And it's a sad situation to see that he had to feel like that along with mom's death, and they wouldn't come together to sign off those spaces to where mom wanted them to go. So that sticks in the back of my mind.
Yes.
That is another reason we need a will, those types of things, so that everybody knows their place when mom, dad, sister, brother passes. So that's one of them.
What makes this so fulfilling for you?
For me, I
Yes.
like to see, so in the funeral industry first, there's before, which is what I'm working on now, is the pre-need part, and then there's the at-need part.
Right.
So if you can get to families before that at need happens, then the fulfilling part for me is to say, look, you've got your pre-need insurance. They have captured the price. There is no way that they can add pricing or anything different to that pre-need. So you're locking in your pricing by purchasing right now.
Okay.
What you need to understand too in the funeral business is that every single year it increases 4 to 8%.
Wow.
So the spaces, the service itself, everything, the headstones and markers, everything goes up.
And let's talk
4
about
to
that.
8%.
What is the average cost? You know, because we know that it can fluctuate
Oh, yes.
depending on what the family wants,
Right.
the type of casket, the
Right.
amount of
Gosh.
plot. But what is the average cost for a funeral?
So funeral, it's burial, cremation, and I would say the average cost that I've dealt with for an actual burial would be 10 to 15,000 at least.
Wow.
And that's with not the bells and whistles. That's not even with the space. So at the space that starts sometimes $2,000 to $4,000 on top of that. So I would say about 19 is an easy number for a funeral.
Wow.
And that's with the space, not the headstone. That's with the space. That's with the service itself. So it depends on what that family's budget is.
Right.
It depends on how much they're willing to pay monthly. But for me, I see it as we're getting ahead of what's to come.
Correct.
And those price increases.
And a lot of times people look at it from the perspective of, okay, it's one person passing.
Right.
But like the other day, unfortunately, I read a story where 4 people in a family got
Yes.
in a car accident
Yes.
in Grand Prairie. You might
Yes.
have heard about that.
Yes.
Now that's 4 funerals right there.
Right.
And you're not prepared for that
No,
financially
not at
unless
all.
you do pre-planning.
Exactly. And another thing that I see families doing because of the money is a lot of cremations, and they might not want cremation.
Right.
They might want the burial. So if you get ahead of it, you can say, this is what I chose.
But even
and it's ready to
cremations
go.
are costly.
Create cremations, you can, so there's options. You can do a direct cremation, and it just is a cremation. There's no service, there's no nothing. You're cremated and given your cremains, is what we call them, back to the family. But cremations usually are about $3,500 to start and higher. If you're wanting to do a memorial service, a graveside service, things like that, they all come into account, and they all equal dollar signs to the
Wow.
funeral homes. Yes.
Yes.
So a part of my business, and the best part, is helping a family say, you know, we have $5,000. What can we do with this? You want cremation? You want burial? Where do you want to be buried? Those types of things. So that's the best part of my day, is saying, we've got you set up. We know where you're going to go. We know what you want done, and we're paying on that. So your family won't accrue those financial difficulties later.
And what is the difference? Because I've heard some people be a little bit confused saying, well, I already have insurance. Isn't that what that's for?
So there is life insurance. And I want to say to everyone, if you have life insurance, keep paying your life insurance. If it lapses, you will have to go back in at your age now, and they might not be able to cover you. So there might not be any life coverage for you at certain ages. Keep that going. But pre-need insurance is also a necessity, because that actually locks in the price of your funeral. Then that's cremation or burial, but it locks in your pricing. You can't come back to this family and say, we have a casket on this pre-need for $1,000,
Right.
but the price has gone up to $5,000. Who cares?
Yes.
That family is not responsible.
And life insurance is meant to be for
the living,
the living
Yes.
expenses that you're going to leave
Yes.
to your family
Your family,
members
right.
that they might incur.
Right.
And so this is separate, and that's why it's got to be treated separate.
Right.
But I've heard a lot of that. Well,
People
my life
don't
insurance
know.
will cover that.
Right. People don't know. And I don't think that, speaking because of the way my grandmother did it, she did it beautifully. She had life insurance. And I remember as a little girl listening to her calling constantly and saying, what's going on now? You know, just being in touch with what your policy is about,
Yes.
so that your family doesn't have to worry. So she did that, and then she had her pre-need. So when grandma died, my family wasn't faced with that difficulty. We could grieve, because that is our matriarch. That is the person I would go to Houston to see, whether I saw anybody else.
Right.
It would be my grandmother. So when she passed, it was very hard. And you don't want that hard along with trying to figure out the money, you know? And so I think that she did it beautifully. We had the suit, we had the shoes, we had everything. But the life insurance was left to her children.
Yes.
And my mom is close to 70. But she left money to all of her children. And she just did a beautiful job. So that's my example. And that's what I'm doing for my children.
I love it.